Right, well, good evening. I was really enjoying being in the bar, but then I've got to spoil it all by talking. Right, I'm not a great one for technology, so oh, right, good, we're in the right place. I'm just, well, as Simon said, I've been in the industry quite a long time, since the earth cooled, really. And I've got I suppose I've gathered lots of thoughts over the years, and I'm just going to share a few of those with you. I mean, you probably disagree with half of what I'm going to say, and actually, if you don't disagree with it, I've probably not done my job. So perhaps try and be a little bit provocative. So how to sell ice cream to Eskimos. What I'm actually talking about there is the fact that I think as marketers we all face a common problem. The fact that there's a lack of demand. I think there's very few kind of unmet needs in the developed world. People have got pretty much everything they need. You know, we've all got clothes, food, a car, a television, you know, everyone's got a mobile phone. We've got a bank or airtime provider. There's not much that people don't need. So it's not like you've got to invent a piece of software and then find someone who doesn't have software or a new jewellery brand or whatever. People have got whatever they need. So how are you going to make them buy something? And so the challenge is really to get them not to buy it in the first place because they've already got it, but to switch from one brand to another. And in theory that's not easy, but what you've got to do to achieve that is you've got to first of all differentiate your brand from your competitor because they're not going to buy it if it's not different, and then you've got to actually overcome inertia and make people want to switch, and you know they're probably not that unhappy with what they've got already. So that's the challenge, and it's extremely, I believe it's extremely difficult because I mean, that's what I have to do. I have to sit at my computer every day. People come up to me with these great products, and I'm thinking, this is going to be really difficult. How am I going to differentiate this? Because if you look at any market, it's absolutely crammed full of products. And if a market's crammed full of products, there's really no point of difference between them. If you look at potatoes, you go to the Tesco website, there's something like 140 potato products in Tesco's. So there's a huge overlap. There are no gaps in the market. So to differentiate most products is just about impossible. They're all Me Too products. That's what I find myself advertising most of the time. And the other thing is consumers, they really don't care. They absolutely don't care. They've got what they need, and what they don't need is more information. They're being deluged with information. And if you bought a Times newspaper today, you wouldn't have been aware of this, but that one newspaper contains more information in those pages than the average person would have received in their entire lifetime during the 18th century. Because not much happened in the 18th century, especially where I come from in Wetherby. People just, their brains are full up. And if they're going to take on more information, they've almost got to get rid of the bit of information that's in there already. And that's why people talk about, I want more space, and I just want to chill out. They're really not interested in whatever it is you're trying to sell them. So that you've got a significant, well, a huge problem here. You've got a product, almost certainly, that doesn't have a significant point of difference. And people just want you to go away. So what are you going to do to overcome that problem? Now, what most people I see in marketing, not all of them, some people in marketing are extremely good, but I see an awful lot of people in marketing doing something really weird. If the problem's over there, let's say, the problem of how you differentiate your product to motivate people, I see most marketers literally turning their back on that problem. They don't address it because they can see it's too difficult. And what they do, they pin their hopes on three other things. Media. They look at all the new sort of technology and all the new media that have been invented and thought, oh, well, if we utilise, you know, the web better, if we create a better website, a new generation website, if we get better at SEO and we use pay-per-click and Facebook and Twitter and we blog more and we go to online video, all those sorts of things, we'll get better at reaching people, we'll touch them more times in more ways, and that will enable us to overcome our problem. Or we'll look at these new tools we've got and we'll get better at sort of leveraging the functionality of them, and we'll get better as mechanics, if you like, and that'll solve the problem. And finally, this new technology also gives us better ways of measuring things. And so people think, well, if we can measure things better, we can eliminate what doesn't work and get better at doing the things that does work.
Now those things are really important. I'm not saying don't do those, but people think, well, if you've done that, so that's enough. And I don't think it is. It's just, it doesn't even begin to solve the problem. Because the problem was, how do we differentiate our offer and make it motivating? And none of those things go even near that. You're still left with the original problem. That's the elephant in the room that most marketers don't want to talk about, because they don't know how to solve it. And they come to me and sort of go, well, can you solve it? And for me, I suppose I can solve it, but I wish someone else would wake up to what the problem is. The problem is the message. I mean, I'm amazed that I have to explain to people, and most of the time I can see they're not listening, you can see their eyes rolling back in their head. You say, the message is important, and I think people they just don't realise how important the message is. It's been completely forgotten, and most people completely ignore it. And I kind of wonder, why is that? And I think what's how the industry has changed over the last 10, 15 years. There's been lots of new technology, and it's drawn a whole new generation of people into the industry, which is good. But I would say there's a preponderance of a certain type of person. They're very task-orientated people. You know, it's the derogatory terms, maybe the geeks, nerds, number crunchers, the bean counters, the developers. They're task-oriented people, not people-orientated people. And I look around and wonder, where are the people who get people? And you know, marketing to me is a people job. I'll just have a glass of water. People aren't like cash machines. It's not like you walk up to them and you press in a code and they give you money. But I think that's how most people seem to approach the business of marketing. If I get the code, the people will give me the money. I mean, would that work on you? No, you'd resent that, wouldn't you? It's treating you like a moron. And I think most marketing people just don't treat people very well. And then they're really surprised that focusing on the media and the metrics and mechanics doesn't work. And the other thing is that amazes me, people talk about the message as just content. And you know, people come to me, they've designed a website. It happens to be everywhere. They've designed a website, and they back it up to me and they go, fill it up. Like they're filling up a car. You know, I mean, you're talking about the content as if, you know, a play, let's say, the words are just the content, or the Mona Lisa, the bit in the middle of the frame is just content. To me, that's the most important bit, and I think an awful lot of people in marketing have just completely forgotten that fact, or moved on from it. And it's just, I think it's utterly crazy. We've become really good at delivering rubbish to people, basically. We've found more ways to touch people, more touch points. But the question is there an engagement? Are we moving anybody? People probably would rather you went away. They can see the touch point coming and they avoid it. We've become so focused on technology that we've lost sight of people. You know, we know how an app works, but we've forgotten how people work. I think for me, the only clicks that count are in the heart and mind. If you don't get a click there, you get clicks all the way along. If you don't get that click, all that effort up to that point was wasted. And it's great to measure stuff, but if you're measuring junk, what's it telling you? You know, you're getting really good at measuring the wrong stuff. And so we need messages that move people. How do you do that? You basically write a brief, and I'm sure everyone in the room knows how to do that, so we'll dwell on that. But those are the kind of the 6 points I would say go into a good brief. And you know, you work out what situation you're in, how you got there, that's the background. Competitive analysis, how do we relate to the competition? What are we trying to achieve? Who are we trying to influence, and how do we understand them? And then a proposition, which should be in one sentence, what's the most motivating, differentiating thing we can say? Their substantiation is just the supporting evidence why they should believe that proposition. And really the brief is a process of simplification. It's getting rid of all the rubbish and just honing it down to a single sharp point. And I like to think of a pin, basically. And people think, well, great, I've done the brief, I've got it all honed down, I've got my proposition, my sharp point, that's going to do the job. It's absolutely not going to do the job because of some of the reasons I talked about earlier. But if I give you an example, if I had a pin here now, it's very sharp, and if I threw it at a chap in the green jacket here, it would make absolutely no impact on him whatsoever. Because there's no weight behind it. Yes, it's sharp, but if there's no weight there, and to move away from the analogy, the proposition won't be that different. You'll have a load of competitors making the same promise, and it's not sufficiently motivating to get through to people who are switched off because they're overloaded with information. The message just bounces off. So, how do you add impact? You've done everything right up until this point. You've got to do more. How do you add impact to that message? And what most people do is, well, I think the traditional way of doing it, you look at the product itself, but it's a waste of time. It's a barren area. You've gone there. You've found there isn't a point of difference that's really that meaningful. So what you should do is turn away from the product. Well, this is. I'm saying this is what you should do. You can do whatever you want. This is what I do. When I find myself with this sort of barren proposition, I turn my back on the product and I look at the consumer. And I've switched from a product-centric approach to a consumer-centric approach, because I tend to find that the answer is in the consumer. You're probably all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, I had this sort of at the back of my mind. But basically, Maslow in the 50s was a psychologist, I believe, who worked out, well, his theory was that people have an ascending rank of needs, if you like. And they start off at the bottom with the very basic physiological needs for sort of food and shelter, the sort of things that a baby will try when it's cold or hungry. But once you satisfy that level of need, you move up to the next one where you see people in sort of war zones and so on. They may have food and water and be warm enough, but they're scared for their safety. But I think in the developed world, most people have got those two covered. But the next three, I think, is where if you look at people where there's room, basically, to market to people. Their physical and practical needs are largely met, but they still have unmet emotional and spiritual needs. So, for instance, they probably, well, some people will have the need to belong, to be accepted, to be loved, to fit in. And so if you look at a lot of marketing, it targets that need, that emotional need. Then there's a higher level of need. Once you've fitted in, I sort of think of teenagers, they're desperate to fit in, but they're also desperate to be seen as individuals. But I think the stronger one is to fit in, really. But then once you've fitted in, it's weird, but you want to stand out. So people are looking for status and respect. And then when you're someone like Bill Gates, where you've got it all, you want to change the world and leave a legacy. So those are the sort of higher level spiritual and emotional needs. And when I'm marketing a product without a strong proposition, I'll look at targeting. I won't work on the head, because logically the person probably doesn't need the thing. And it's logically not that different. So I will move to the heart and target their heart and try and use their emotions to get them interested in what I'm promoting. And there's a quote from a neurologist, the essential difference between emotion and reason is that emotion leads to action, while reason leads to conclusions. Now, emotion moves people, hence the word emotion in the word. And I think people tend to buy on logic, but they justify with emotion. If you think when you buy a car, oh, I need a new car. You don't need a new car, you want a new car, but you justify the decision with it's safer, it's better fuel economy, and so on. I mean, what's the most emotional kind of, the most important decision we make in life? It's possibly, arguably, we marry somebody, we find our life partner. I mean, how logical was that decision? Did you check their O-levels? You know, did you get their teeth checked in case for dentist bills? Did you check with their boss and see what the career prospects were like? I don't. If you did, don't put your hand up, right? Especially off your wife's next to you. Right. You could go, okay, well, Jim's been expounding these sort of theories, and it's all very well and interesting, maybe not that interesting, just his theories. But I noticed, just watching the television, how many big brands are actually doing this. They're switching from a logical, practical sell to an emotional one. And you look at big successful brands, the sort of brands that can't afford to fail, the sort of brands that can afford the very biggest ad agencies, they've got the biggest budgets, and they've got the most to lose. I just don't see them. They do make mistakes, but they don't make them that often. That is why they've got big and why they stay big. So I'm reassured when I'm thinking along these lines. I can see big, successful brands doing exactly what I'm suggesting. So I'm following them basically. What they do is they simplify, they write a good brief, they simplify their message to a single sharp point, and then they simplify, then they exaggerate. They exaggerate the importance of that point by adding emotional weight to it. And they don't look too closely at the product, and they look an awful lot closer at the consumer. And even when their brand has got no practical or logical point of difference, they use emotion to create a perceived point of difference, to make their brand feel different. And I think we're on the pictures bit now, so we're all downhill really. We can relax. That's the serious bit. We can chat with pictures now. BMW, obviously German, engineering, I suppose the epitome of the Germanic sort of approach to life, I suppose, BMW. These ads actually were done in the 80s by an agency called White Collins Rutherford Scott, and they took a very Germanic approach to the advertising. They came up with the line, the ultimate driving machine, which is very product-centric, isn't it? And what they would do every year, Robin White, who styled himself as the brand architect, would go to Munich for a week or so, and he had a process what he called interrogating the product, so a product-centric approach, and he would spend hours with the engineers asking them about every minute little feature of the BMW. And he came up with a whole series of ads, which is really quite hard to find now. But for instance, this one was shaken, not stirred, and he didn't name the other company, but let's say if you put a gin and tonic on a martini on a Mercedes and so many revs, it would shake. If you did the same on a BMW, it wouldn't, because the BMW's got 6 cylinders and the Mercedes has got 4 or whatever. So there you've got a classic sort of logical, unemotional sell, and that's what these guys were doing in the 80s. And another ad, and if you can't see the headlines, what a part goes into before it goes into a BMW. And it's about the kind of chemistry, if you like, the sheer amount of research and development that goes into the ultimate driving machine. But I got a mailer the other day from BMW, and it just completely stunned me, because you couldn't go further from the ultimate driving machine and being German. Okay? Oh, no, I've pressed the wrong button there. Right. Need a German up here. Right. These are the ads they're running now. Joy. Now, I can't possibly read that, so I'll have to. I can't even read that either. But it's all about joy, you know. We don't just build cars. We are the creators of emotions. So do you see how they've moved from a product-centric and a logical, rational sell to one totally aimed at the heart? Okay? They still have got the ultimate driving machine line there. There's a whole ad there just about joy, the emotion that comes from this brand. And they're just all over the world, they've got ads about joy. And it's what Morris Archie calls single word equity. You try and sum up the whole brand in one word. And they've done it quite nicely, actually. It's 3 letters, like the logo, BMW, joy. And they're just associating that brand with one emotion. So that's one example. What's the next slide? Oh, okay. Another one from the 80s, okay, around the similar time that those BMWs came from. Timberland shoes. There's an agency, Leeds Delaney. Tim Delaney was a bit like Robin White in a way. I believe I haven't met him, but I didn't know him. I think obsessive about sort of researching and going into product detail. And he wrote a whole series of ads for Timberland that were very product-centric. And it's about the engineering of the pair of shoes, if you like, how the stitching and all these sorts of things, and the grommets that went into it, and what the soles are made out of, and so on. So product-centric, logical sell for a pair of shoes. And another one in the series, Timberland presents a range of the most repellent shoes ever made. And it's all about all the things they do to keep your feet dry. And then, 20 years later, you get things like this. I don't know if you can see this sort of, it's a graph basically, and on one axis is character, on the other is sweat, and the Timberland logo is obviously at the high point of both those axes, where they intersect. So it's not about keeping your feet dry. Where you can't even see the shoes. Where are the shoes? It's about how you will feel as a person. You're going up Maslow's pyramid now to the sort of, I think it's level 4 or 5, about not fitting in but standing out, the kind of person it makes you feel. It's about sort of self-actualisation. It's not about shoes. And the whole series of these ads. So this one on the upward graph, self-confidence, and then the other one, altitude. Again, it's not about keeping your feet dry. It's about how you feel as a person wearing these shoes. And then another one, very hard to read the line here, but it's go out and be you, is the strap line. So it's all about the kind of person you become by putting these shoes on. It's about as far as you can get from sort of the engineering of the product. Another brand, well, this is a series of just examples of how people market watches. I mean, what does a watch do? It tells the time. And the product-centric approach, if you like to... That's timely, wasn't it? Oh, there you go, dedicated to perfection. I've worked weeks of practice going into that. You're all looking terribly serious, so I'll try and crack a few jokes. So Seiko, here's a product-centric ad. Seiko, dedicated to perfection. It's all about engineering of a timepiece, if you like. And that's sort of the classic way to market a watch. But then I think some people sort of thought, oh, we need to sort of add some character to our brand. And I love this. I mean, people are so lazy in marketing. We'll add some character. We'll buy Leonardo DiCaprio, or we'll buy Brad Pitt, or I mean, how much Brad Pitt was paid $5 million for? Was it Chanel No. 5? I mean, I watched that commercial and you think he was really struggling to get through to the end for $5 million without pissing himself laughing. It was so pathetic what he was saying. I mean, you could do anything for $5 million probably, but he really struggled. You know? The number of brands who just import a personality, that just tells me there's a creative team there who can't be asked to think, and a client who can't be asked to think either, but they've got too much money and and it's safe to go and buy a personality. They're not creating a personality for their brand, they are just importing and sticking it on there. No wonder that Leonardo sponsors loads of other things or endorses loads of other things. Now the brand I think was really, really clever at this. Really clever, and it's the same man who did the Timberland ads. Now, the Timberland ads were very product-centric, but here he's flipped, he's gone completely the other way, which I think just shows you he's pretty good. And these are Patek Philippe, and you see loads of these ads, and you probably, I don't know, I kind of analyse them, but I think a lot of people probably just turn the page or whatever. Now, going back to the brief, what's the target audience? I don't know how much they cost, but you're probably talking 2, 3, 4, 5 grand. So well, the Tag Heuer one just back there was about 3 or 4 grand, 2 or 3 grand. A bit more.
Keep going. A bit more.
Oh, is it? Okay. How much is one of these then? Take Philippe.
Close to 10.
50 grand.
No.
Okay, so you're looking at hedge fund managers. You're looking at. I mean, we're not joking here. You're looking at people who can buy anything. Now, the tip of Maslow's pyramid is people who want to leave a legacy, who they've got everything else. So they're not marketing this as something to tell the time, because the line is, you never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation. It's all about leaving a legacy. It's the one thing you can't do is defy. You can tell the time, you can't defy time, even when you're really, really, really rich. So what they're saying is to that about 0.5% of people who can have anything, the one thing they can't have is immortality. And that's what they're selling this watch on. So it's not about the mechanics of the little thing, the mechanics inside the watch. It's about the mechanics of the person's head and heart. And what it's saying is you can achieve immortality and defy time by having a watch that your son will remember you by. Okay? And I just say, well, actually, just go back. A higher level of, no, I won't bother actually. Yeah, we'll go on. So I'd say, just look, where are the eyes? Where are the eyes looking?
At one another.
At each other. Okay. Now, an awful lot of people in marketing, they go and buy a stock shot. They go, oh, I'll buy a stock shot of a bloke who looks like a hedge fund manager. And that's good enough. But, okay, look at where the eyes are. Next shot. Same line. It's a father and son again. Look at where the eyes are. Okay, it's not been bought as a stock shot, it's been art directed. And the point is, the hedge fund manager, I'm guessing, he's in Geneva earning $500,000 a year. Where's his son? His son's in Millfield, and the mum and dad don't live together. So he doesn't have a relationship with his son that he would like. So we're talking higher level needs here. So they're selling the kind of relationship you would like with your son if you hadn't jeopardised it by becoming so dedicated to the career.
Who's he going to give the watch to?
Yeah, well. So you see what's at work here. I don't know what the next one is, right? And then here's an ad on succession planning. I'm not joking. I mean, I've worked for Coots. There's a whole department in Coots, well, called the private office, who work on the very, very high net worth, the Paul McCartneys and so on. And they do things like prenuptial agreements. But the point is, here's an ad again. They're looking into each other's eyes about succession planning, and that's probably the issue that's on a lot of these guys' mind: is what happens when I'm gone? Who am I going to leave this to? Slightly different with women. The line is, something truly precious holds its beauty forever. And I think this is about, again, the one thing a woman can't, well, none of us can do is keep our looks, but I would think if you're a very wealthy woman, you can probably have pretty much anything else. You can buy pretty much anything else, but you can't buy eternal youth. So I think it's saying a watch that will allow you to be remembered as you were when you were beautiful. It's a subliminal message there. If you think I'm just making that up, look at where are the eyes? They're looking out. So it's a self-regard. It's not self-regarding. The two women are aware of how they look. They're aware of somebody looking at them in that ad. So you can just flip the page and go, oh, it's just a watch ad. An awful lot of clever work's gone into that. Okay, and then you look at another one. Where are the eyes? And what are they doing? They're putting makeup on and they're attending to their looks. Or she's teaching her daughter how to look good. But where are the eyes? They're looking into a mirror. So it's about self-regarding. Okay? It's not about the watch. Okay, let's take another. Oh, yeah, okay. We all know the brand. I mean, never knowing unsold. It's a price promise. It's really pretty straight and cold and logical. Zero emotion. And it was like that for about nearly 100 years. But what are they doing now? It's a love story. There's not a product in it. You know, they meet in a coffee shop. It's more like an ad for Starbucks. So you've got this series of love stories going on in the John Lewis commercials. I think this was 3 years ago. Everyone raves about the TV, the Christmas commercials. For those who care about showing their care, it's all about being a caring person and love. Last year's one, everyone went completely sort of gooey over for gifts you can't wait to give. It's purely aimed at the heart. And this year, give a little more love this Christmas. I'm not going to sing you the songs. So it's pure and utter emotion with no product, no logic in it whatsoever. Oh, then what's the most logical thing you can get? Logistics. I mean, logistics is forklift trucks and barcode scanners and containers and delivery lorries. And it's about, I mean, all you care about in logistics is the flipping thing turning up on time. But what have UPS done? It's all about love. And I won't sing this one, but it's a Dean Martin song, That's Amore. And I just think it's brilliant because it's taking something incredibly cold and logical and clinical and turning it into something emotional. And it went through to press ads, just through lots of different industries, if you like, and just putting some heart, if you like, into the logistics service they offer these different industries. It went through to the website, and if you look at the lyrics on the song, It's incredibly business focused. You know, when the parts on the line come precisely on time, so just in time logistics. You know, you couldn't get more kind of business focused than that. Carbon footprint gets reduced, bottom line gets a boost, that's logistics. So it's hitting, you know, environmental issues, it's hitting profit. I mean, profit is, every single B2B brand talks about profit, but they're doing it in an emotional way. They've found a fresh way to do it. You know, with new ways to compete, there'll be cheers on Wall Street, so it's the share price, it's beating the competition. There will be no more stress because you call the UPS, that's logistics. So it's the most the most logical kind of rational sell, but sugar-coated with emotion to put some weight behind it. The conclusion is, stop kidding yourself that the message doesn't matter. I mean, if you ignore the message and you just fart around with metrics and mechanics and media, you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's going down. You know, and people will scratch their heads and go, oh, we need to measure it, or we need to tweet more. No, you need to stop and think and look at what you're actually saying and think, would you buy this product? What you're saying is so boring that nobody's going to be moved to buy it. So that the message is crucial, and for a message that moves people, you need two things. You've got to have your pin. It's got to be really, really honed down to a sharp point. But then you've got to exaggerate as far as you can possibly exaggerate and add as much emotional weight behind it, and then the point will go in. And I think that's my last slide. Oh, well, yeah. If you don't do that, given the fact that markets are so crowded and people are so switched off, it's just not going to work. It's a complete waste of time and money unless you concentrate on the message. I think this was going to be recorded tonight. I don't think it was, but I've written this as a little, well, by tomorrow I'll have written it as an e-book. I've nearly finished it. So if you want those notes in an e-book form, just write down my email and I'll send you the e-book.